Hey guys, it's Scott with Scotty B Cards. In this video, I want to talk about legends and if their cards can drop. So we always hear the greatest of all time conversation, or GOATs for short. I'm going to say GOATs a lot in this video, so I want to make sure we establish that it means greatest of all time. These GOATs are players who are essentially done with their playing days or at the very tail end of their career or even the middle of their career, like Mike Trout, for example. I also want to preface that when I'm saying GOATs, I don't mean Mike Trout's literally the best of all time. I'm just basically saying best of each generation. So you're told by everybody who collects sports cards that GOATs values just don't drop. But the truth of the matter is there are some serious situations where you can lose a lot of money investing in these players. I want to break it down and describe what these situations are and how to avoid them, and basically how you can invest long-term in these players and be safe. The first thing is a couple notes on GOATs. Investing in established players is a safer long-term route than prospects. That's not surprising, and I understand that. Prospecting can make you a ton of money. People were buying Mike Trout's Bowman Chrome autograph for $10 when it came out, maybe even less, and now it's a $30, $40, $50,000 card. The Superfractor goes for a couple $1,000,000, and you get the idea. But what I'm trying to establish is that on average, if you want a good long-term investment, you want to buy, a Ricky Henderson high-grade rookie card, Michael Jordan 1986 Fleer. These type of cards are the ones that can really maintain value and appreciate slowly over time and be a good asset for you. In the short term, any card can drop large amounts, including GOATs. Short to mid-term investments can be a roller coaster. That's the same thing with stocks. It's kind of like the S&P 500. I can't guarantee it's going to be positive next month, but I can almost guarantee that in 30 years it's going to be positive. The longer you look at it, and for sports cards, we're not looking at 30 years, but we're looking at 3, 4, 5 years, you can almost promise that these cards are going to slowly appreciate like the stock market will slowly appreciate. There's a chance it drops, but that isn't likely. And it's the same situation with these type of players. These established players are extremely good long-term holds, even though they do have some room to be really bad short-term holds or mid-term holds. And that's what I want to talk about is do not buy a card on credit if you cannot afford it. Even if you think that this price on this Michael Jordan rookie card is such a good deal, you can take a small loan out for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 because that card could easily go down a lot of dollars. It can go down from $3,000 to $1,500 and you're stuck paying interest on a loan that you don't really have. And so my point is, don't be stupid when you're buying sports cards. I know it's tempting to buy cards on credit. I buy cards on my credit card and then I pay it off later in the month as I sell cards to do it, but it's always small amounts. I'm never spending 3, 5, 10, 20, 40, $2 million. You get the idea. I'm not doing all these things that can really put you at financial risk and expose yourself to having a lot of financial issues. Sports cards are supposed to be fun. Yes, they can make you a lot of money, but you don't want to make yourself have unnecessary risk. So let's look at some examples of how GOATs can create bad investment situations for you. So I'll start with Michael Jordan. So this is the graph of the Michael Jordan PSA 10 1986 Fleer rookie card all the way since 2004. So the start price is $5,000. You could have gotten a Michael Jordan PSA 10 for $5,000 back in 2005-ish, which is a lot of money back then because the hobby wasn't very big. It wasn't nearly as hot as it is now, obviously, but you can see little blips here and there, and then all of a sudden it spikes, drops. You have some more fluctuation over here as the card has been more popular in recent days. But if we zoom in to this spike right here, you can see that in the year 2006, the card had good increase in value and it was increasing well enough. It hit $45-ish thousand. The actual high price was 43 grand. And then it dropped all the way back to $16,000 within a year. And that was in 2016 to 2017. So these cards, let's say you sold all your collection to buy this Michael Jordan and you were really excited and then it tanks to about a third of the price in 1 year. It can really be a tough pill to swallow. And so my point is, in the short to long term, do not overreact with these type of players. They are long-term holds for a reason. You want to have long-term holds, you want to have short-term holds in your collection if you're looking at it as an investment portfolio, because if you don't, then situations like this can really screw you if you really are not being smart about it. Even up until 2018, so 2 years later, you're still sitting basically the same, even though there are a couple peaks in there. It's just not the best opportunity for you. So I just want to say, do not overreact, but also do not make any rash decisions when buying, because when things are hyped, it's probably not the best time to buy. You can see that from here. People saw this big purchase at $700,000 and they thought, oh man, it dipped. I got a good deal right here at $600. Next person thought he got a good deal at $500, and it's just going down right now. And the last sale looks like it was about $312,000. So all of these people have lost money so far. Do I think it'll go up? I do personally, but at the same time, it depends if the hobby continues to grow. If the hobby recedes in regards to values, then they could be in trouble because it drops back down to realistic pricing for the average collector. Let's jump to LeBron James. Same situation. You can see it was extremely consistent. The low price, starting price for a PSA 10 refractor for LeBron from 2003 Topps Chrome was $187, and it was basically there with a few spikes, maybe like 10 grand at most. And then all of a sudden 2020 hits. You can see right here is March of 2020. It was kind of peaking at the end of 2019, mid of 2019, and then it went crazy again. The high price was $286,000. Now this card goes for 77 grand. So everybody who bought at this peak or under is having a hard time. Yes, you do have everybody else here. If you bought and held, which nobody buys and holds for a long time, a lot of the time in the hobby. I have a few cards I will, but it's easy to sell. It's easy to move into other things because that's just how we are. We see a card, we buy it. But regardless, if you bought here, you could be really screwed. And that is something that could be happening to these people right now. It could drop lower for all we know. Now let's look at Ken Griffey Jr. This one's interesting. I have everything from 2004 all the way until 2018 before the sports card boom. I want to just emphasize that Ken Griffey Jr.'s PSA 10 Upper Deck rookie card, it's a pretty low pop, less than 4,000. And that sounds like a lot, but that's really not that bad. You can see when we started, the starting price was around $350 to $400. It did not cross that point again until 2016. So from 2004 to 2016, this card of Ken Griffey Jr., one of the more popular baseball players of all time, it took 12 years after his retirement for it to go back up. And that's not extremely abnormal. And it really took the sports card boom to have this card go up a ton. It hit up to, the high price was $6,600. Now it's at $2,000. So you can see it was the same price for 12 to 15 years before it blew up. And now it's kind of established itself at $2,000. And I bet it does drop a little bit more, but I don't think it'll ever be nearly as low as it was previously. So if you believe in a card, hold on to it. But at the same time, that's still a long time to wait for that return. But these people who bought here, they all lost their shirt because they had to either hold or sell, and they're still holding, hoping that it goes back up to where they paid. But a lot of transactions happened in this $5,000 to $3,000 range. A lot of transactions. And I just wanted to look at one more note on Ken Griffey Jr. Here's more of it zoomed in to the 2020 timeframe. You can see that big spike, and now it's leveling itself out, so we might be where we needed to be. Equilibrium. Then we have second year Michael Jordan cards. This is the example of do not buy hype, even if it's Michael Jordan, because if you did buy because of The Last Dance, yeah, it spiked right here in 2020. Great. It was at $100. It came back to reality, and then it went way back up. I don't know exactly what happened in the market here, but it went up to $200, and now it's back down to 44. So essentially, unless you bought before 2020, you have lost money on that card, and I don't think it's going to be any higher anytime soon. It's going to take a while to get back up. So even though it is a cool card, everybody loves it right now in the hobby, there still are quite a few of them. This is a PSA 9, not a 10, but 15,000 of these, it doesn't mean it's a good buy at all. Here's Ricky Henderson. This is the 2020 boom. This is his PSA 8 rookie card. It went all the way up to around $700 right here, and now it's still trending downwards. So anybody who bought previously is losing money. You can lose money on these established players. Long term, I think you're going to be just fine with Ricky Henderson because he's awesome. But short term, you need to understand that it's a little bit harder to flip these type of cards. You could get lucky if the boom continues. People who bought here when it's still way up from its lows down here at $26, they're still making a killing if they sold at that peak. But not everybody sells at the peak. People buy at the peak. It's a zero-sum game. Either you sold or you bought. That's just how it works. Either you're the top buy or the top sale if you're involved in this card at that time. And one more note on the Ricky Henderson. This is his PSA 10 rookie. This peaked up around $180,000, and the current price is $126,000. That's still a very large loss on a very expensive card. Mickey Mantle, same boat, it peaked. Would I be worried about this card long term? Not even a little bit. I think it'll be just fine, but it still will have a drop if you're not careful and need to be aware that it's not a complete victory all the time for these cards. Here's Mike Trout. He's one of the more market manipulated players. You see tons of little spikes based off of his performance, MVPs, great seasons. It's just kind of how the market fluctuates, but still, he had a run up before the season that was insane. It hit $7,500 for a card of $5,500 total in the population report, and it's still dropping. I think at $2,800, I still think it's too expensive myself. I do think it's going to be over $2,000 probably for the next 5 to 10 years, but it's going to trend downwards consistently in my personal opinion. These last few cards, these are the consistent growth vintage cards that have not really been manipulated. I have 4 Mickey Mantle cards. They're all various grades, various prices, various sets that are popular or not popular among collectors, but I just wanted to show kind of what happens with vintage. They can boom and go back up. I don't anticipate these dropping drastically. I have some Bowman Chrome autographs of some really good prospects right now that I plan on dropping consistently in the future, but I plan on selling before that drop. And that's just the difference in mentality when you're buying prospects versus buying vintage and GOATs and all these Hall of Famers. So just know, if you're looking to get into these players, make sure you have the financial resources where you're not leveraging yourself too much, where you're going to be in big financial trouble. But on top of that, vintage cards are going to be of these great players, the greatest of all time players or greatest of the generation players, can be extremely lucrative for you if you're able to have diamond hands and hold for a very long time. You'll be able to sell for probably more than what you paid for. Obviously, I cannot predict the future of the market, so I can't say for certain, and this is not financial advice, but just be aware that GOATs can drop no matter what anyone in the hobby tells you. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.